There we go.
There we go. The stream is live.
We are live.
Our intro is so impressive. I feel like it needs music or something behind that, Ash, don't you? So hi, everyone. Welcome to actually what is now the second edition of Power to the People. And we are today dialing into everything personal brand. So, of course, I'm going to call him like the king. I've called myself the B2B People's Princess. So with my new haircut, especially, I'm sort of very Lady Di. So my king over here, or maybe the Prince Harry of personal branding, who has actually done quite a good job at his own personal branding, is the fantastic Ash. Ash, I'm going to let you introduce yourself because I always picture you as the man behind Stephen Bartlett's fame, but you've had a pretty epic career and you're working with some incredible businesses and people on their personal brands now. You give me the Ash story, why people should be here today listening to you.
Okay, I'll try to keep it really, really short. I've been doing personal branding for a decade now. Started off with Stephen Bartlett from literally zero. Did that for 4 or 5 years with him. Learned everything that I could possibly learn from him. He's like a master of personal branding. And then I started a company called Great Influence, where I went to work with other founders and CEOs on the whole personal branding piece in 2018. And then since then I feel like I've worked with so many people by this point. I'm like 8 years into that journey. Gary Neville for the past 5 years I've been working with, and a number of large brands in more recent times, Booking.com with a number of their leadership team across the C-suite and VPs and things like this. The last few companies that we started working with are Santander, Gusto, Bioma. Yeah.
Love all those brands, by the way. Like, I was just saying to Ash offline, my daughter uses Bioma every day. I love that brand. I mean, they have got a fantastic brand, as well as now working on their personal brand, which I think is incredible.
Yeah, well, I'm helping them, but they're helping me. When I first got on the call with the CEO, I was like, I'm going to be honest, I've never had a skincare routine. And he was like, we are fixing this. And
yeah, I love that.
Yeah, so I'm working on my skincare through Bioma right now. So I'm helping them, they're helping me. It's trade-off.
I love that. And I probably should give myself a bit of an intro because I've looked at some of you amazing people that are joining us today. And I don't know as many of you as I usually do. We've got some amazing C-suite leaders, CEOs of fantastic businesses in their own right. So I love LinkedIn, as does Ash, but I also run a B2B marketing agency. We mainly work with tech companies, and hence I run a series on here called Power to the People. My whole go-to-market strategy is about enabling businesses to put their people first. So we call it people-powered marketing, and basically what that means is events and content that put your people first, because I truly believe, and I have been doing this for a few years, that people, if you're trying to generate leads, people trust people way more they do than an invisible marketing team sat behind a corporate brand. So that's what we're both all about. We both post and work with a lot of big clients. My clients include people like last week we were with Google, PayPal, more on the kind of tech side of things. But yeah, hopefully we're going to have a lot that we can share with you today. Now, little tiny bit of housekeeping before I dig into the rest of I'm going to call it a show. The rest of this LinkedIn Live show is please do say hi to each other in the chat, and also pop your comments in there. I should be able to see any questions that you've got coming through, but if not, I have got the fantastic Mariana in my team on standby sending me questions. So say hi to each other, introduce yourself to people. We want this to kind of be a bit of a fun kind of community build out, and please make sure that you ask the questions that you want to ask. So I'm going to start with a few little stats. Ash, I'm sure that you already know all of this. So my kind of belief is, gone are the days of this kind of corporate messaging, and the shift that is shaping, especially B2B marketing, but Ash, I know you work a lot in B2C as well, is really this human-centered, people-powered marketing strategies. Reason, and some of the things that I just want to call out is 80% of people trust, brands with people more than they do brands where it's just that kind of invisible marketing approach. There's been some really interesting research from the LinkedIn B2B Institute, which I'm a huge fan of. And 73% of B2B executives say that thought leadership is a more trustworthy way of them engaging with a brand than traditional marketing materials. And when they're evaluating vendors, that's what they need, especially in B2B. You tend to be making quite expensive, big decisions of hundreds of thousands of pounds, if not millions. So actually building trust is the most important thing. And how can you build trust if you're not building that with people? So I think there's lots that we can kind of dive into. What I would like to start with, and Ash, I'm going to come to you because it's only you and me. So it's only us two talking anyway. Talk to me about why you think personal branding is so important and why you've kind of built your whole business about it.
I think why personal branding is important is because it's not about personal branding anymore. So when I started Great Influence, the only person that would ever really do this kind of thing was like a founder. And it would be founder of like a startup or a scale up, one that could take a little bit more risk. And then I've watched over the past maybe like year or 18 months where it's
don't worry. That was bound to happen, wasn't it?
Yeah, sorry, can you hear me? Are we all good?
Yeah, I can hear you. No, it's fine. I thought it was me. I was like, oh no, it's me. It's fine. Keep it real, guys. That's important in personal branding, to be fair.
Yeah, so the last 12 to 18 months I've watched this change where it's not just startups and scale ups thinking about this, the idea that you say there of like, how can we leverage people to be able to make things happen within business and careers? It's now going widespread. And I actually think the trend has come from the employee led. There's been a lot more like the rise of the employee influencer and things like that. It's made companies start to sit up and realize that, it's not just the spokesperson that we have that can play a role here. There's actually way more people. And to me, personal branding has been like the term has been a barrier to enabling this because it puts a lot of people off. And it's a bit of an icky term. And it's like, are we meant to be a brand? Like, I'm a person. I'm just trying to, go through my career, and I don't want to be a brand. I don't want to be an influencer. And we associate personal branding with a lot of those things. And I think it just gets in the way of like underneath it, what is actually happening. And brands, companies, people within it are starting to realize that once they look past this like icky front of it, actually what is behind that is quite powerful for brands. So yeah, I think that the rise of it is actually because people are starting to realize that there was a whole era of like personal branding and being famous and going viral and all these things. And I think that we're starting to come out of that now. And it's started to be a lot more about less trying to be famous and more about trying to be useful.
Yes, I love that. And that really is what it's about. Like whenever I'm writing my content, I'm thinking, how is this helpful for someone to read? Like, of course, there's parts of my content strategy and the content strategies we deliver for our clients that humanize us and tell us who we are. Maybe I'll show you some of that on this call, my hecticness, the ADHD brain of Katie. But I think, really what personal branding is today is it's a way to engage your potential customers, consumers, whatever you want to call them, in a way that they can actually connect with and build trust with way more naturally than you can ever do with a kind of traditional, brand or, advertising strategy. So it's about, humanizing the business so that people can buy into it. Like, I know, when I'm buying products, when I, buy my daughter Bioma or whatever it might be, as well as the packaging looking pretty and it having a nice brand, which it does, the things that I'm interested in is seeing people use the product, because then I'm much more likely to trust it. I want to see the reviews from people. I want to see, their team using the product, whatever it might be, because, therefore that human element gives me the trust and the belief in the brand that I need to make a decision to buy it. And I think in B2B, like I said, that's even more important because, B2B tends to be, although it's, sort of seen to not be the cooler side of marketing sometimes, actually it should be doing even more, because the the decisions and the purchases businesses are making tend to be a lot more expensive and a lot bigger. So therefore, trust is even more important, because no one wants to get sacked, sorry for swearing, for making a shit decision. Like, people need to, trust the brands and the businesses that they're working with are going to do a good job, right? So it's so important on so many levels. Right, I want to go into, you obviously do this for some fantastic businesses. You're working with CEOs, founders of some fantastic and very, very cool brands. When someone first comes to you, how, I'm talking to maybe some of the people that haven't maybe built their personal brand yet, although I've been looking at a lot of people joining today, and a lot of them have got a lot more followers than me, so thanks, guys. But when it comes to actually getting started, what are the first things that you're working with someone to define or do?
Three very simple questions. Who am I trying to be in the world? Why am I trying to be that person? And who's the audience that I need to build to become that person? So to me, it's like, the thing you need to figure out straight away is like, what outcomes are you trying to get from doing this? Everything needs to, and again, this is the problem with personal branding. Sometimes personal branding doesn't work. It doesn't have an outcome. It's just like, be famous. That's not useful. And like, when I worked with Steve Bartlett, it was whilst he was at Social Chain. So like 2014 to 18. And everything was about trying to support Social Chain, the agency, the business. So the whole idea of why we did personal branding was to support the business. So it's like, that's the reason why we did it. And to me, personal branding is all about creating outcomes. It's not about just trying to be like famous for the sake of being famous. So I always tried to start of like, what's the outcome that somebody's looking for? And it's part of the problem of trying to run a business that does it, is you can't like make a scalable blueprint that you just apply to every business you work with, because there's a million ways that they could approach doing it. And it all depends on what they're trying to achieve and what their business is about. And we've worked with so many different clients down the years, and not one is the same as the other. So yeah, I always tried to start from a point of what are the outcomes that somebody is trying to generate from doing this, and work backwards from there. So those three questions, like, who am I trying to be in the world? If I apply this to myself, I'm trying to be a voice on personal branding in the world. That's the only thing that I'm doing. Why am I trying to do that? Is to help support the business that I run, which is a personal branding agency. And three, the audience that I need to build to enable that to happen is founders, CEOs, entrepreneurs, and more broadly, CMOs, employer brand people. Like, those are my people. And if I just focus on that, being a voice on personal branding in the world with the aim of helping support the business that I run and to the right audience, that's the game that I'm playing. I don't need to be the most famous people in the world, person in the world. I need to be, just that. It's a lot easier to achieve. So yeah, I tried to put those guardrails around something relatively quickly.
Yeah, the person to those people. And I think that's another thing. Again, sorry, I keep talking about B2B, but hopefully a few of you listening are in B2B. Is, for me, that's why I'm all about LinkedIn, because it's so easy for me to access my audience via LinkedIn, because it's where they all live and breathe. So, I've been, doubling down on LinkedIn probably, throughout my career, but only really strategically, I would say, for probably 1.5 to 2 years. And the difference that has made to my business and the amounts of leads I can generate, and also for my clients' business, where we're creating a lot more of that, human-centered, people-powered content for our clients, I think it's been tenfold. Like, pretty much all of our leads, apart from, outside of referrals, now come via LinkedIn. And that's without me having to do much. That's just me creating, being helpful, showing up with, content that is talking to the wants and needs of my audience as we all kind of figure this stuff out. So I think that's really important, Ash, and a very, very good point. Yeah. Who do you want to be? Why? Why do you want to be it? And who are you talking to? And then from that, that then comes all of the other, strategic things, which I guess we can start to potentially dig into. So I guess once someone's understood, right, this is, and I get, for me, the other thing is, the importance of doing this now is more important than ever, because I'm not saying, don't continue your brand marketing. Of course, continue your brand marketing, but it's really interesting to see the companies that are coming to have made this shift. And Ash, you probably know, I've got more examples of this than I have. But for instance, HubSpot, we all know, were famed for writing loads and loads of blogs and articles, and that's where all of their inbound traffic came from. HubSpot were known as the inbound, company. Like that, I used to go to them for all. I thought they were fantastic at marketing. Like I was like, wow. They noticed. Don't quote me on the timescales here because I'm probably wrong, but 2 or 3 years ago, that started to drop off a cliff because the way that we all search and we find products and services has changed dramatically. So their blog articles weren't performing for them anymore. They were not getting the inbound traffic that they once had. So they were one of the first to kind of deploy an employee generated content program. I have to get them onto one of these lives actually. And I've seen incredible results in terms of their sales. So they went down from their inbound going from nothing to then, I think they started with 100 or 200 staff across the business to start to generate this employee generated content. And it has scaled. It has turned them back to being, again, well respected and getting loads of leads, basically. So they were one of the early ones to spot this. I think most businesses, and please shout in the chat if you think I'm wrong, but most businesses still aren't doing this. Like, the ones that are getting ahead pretty quick. Ash, I know you've kind of referenced this already, but it was, like you say, personal branding was thought about, and I guess Stephen in a way is a good example of this. And now all of you guys that worked with him and for him have gone off and done it yourselves as well. But it was very much the founder or the CEO, and we're seeing clients of mine like PayPal actually who have now invested in. They went viral a few months ago for this ad that they put out for head of CEO content. That everyone was like, oh, it must be head of SEO content. No, it was head of CEO content, and it was a punchy salary as well, like $250,000, I think was the salary. So, but it's changing now as well, isn't it? It's not just the CEOs; it's the whole teams, because if you can amplify that, and you've got leaders and also people at every stages of their career that are able to talk about your business and share the insights that. Be those thought leaders, you're going to be able to scale this even more. So Ash, talk to me about some of the maybe changes that you've seen, and then we've still got another 40 minutes. I do really want to get into some of the tactics and things that people can actually do as well.
Yeah. So the changes side of things is really interesting. You mentioned there HubSpot. Spoke to HubSpot in the past month about stuff. And in the last, we never, ever in 2024 and previous got inbound from brands, like big brands. And then around August last year, there was a run of 3 months where a number of big brands got in touch with us inbound. And I was like, what is going on here? It's not happened before. And I think there's just a bit of a shifting sands happening and you'll see this happen over the next year or two, because all these brands are doing it and they're not talking about it yet. So they're getting in touch with your agency or my agency, or they're trying to hire for certain roles to be able to do it. And we've not yet seen what will happen is they resource in it, invest in it, they do it, and then 2 years later they tell everyone about it and how successful it was. So I reckon, based off the timeline of the inbound of great influence in the last 6 months, give it about 18 months and there's going to be a bunch of people that work at these brands at employer brand conferences, PR conferences, comms conferences, marketing conferences saying, we did this for the past 2 years and the results were this. So it's one of those where it's you don't see these brands talking about it yet, but behind the scenes, they're making moves to try to start to move in that direction. And I'll share a bit of an exclusive. I'm launching a new business in the next 2 weeks that nobody knows about this yet. And I am betting everything on the people within brands are going to be what brands are start to focus on now. And we're launching a company called Ingle Company, it's going to be called. And it's designed to help brands be able to activate their leadership teams on social more. And 2 years ago, we worked with Booking.com and we built a leadership advocacy program with them. We worked with about 10 of their senior leaders across C-suite, VP, director, head of. Really good program, like Booking very ahead of the curve for what was happening. And I didn't think too much of it in 2023. I just thought, cool project. Okay, cool. And then 6 months ago, when we start getting the inbound from brands, I'm like, wait a minute, something's in the air here. So I've spent the last 6 months trying to devise how I'm going to take advantage of what I think is the next big opportunity that's around the corner, which is that brands are now starting to realize that the people that are within them are actually part of the future of their brand marketing. So yeah, the fact that I'm willing to bet a 7-year career in that direction, that's the direction this is going in. And it's not us walking away from founder or CEO, it's us saying the CEO is just one of many cogs that now exist within the business. And I think there's a couple of things that are happening that are also playing into the strength of this, where one is what is happening on LinkedIn right now with the change of the algorithm and how it's starting to work, in that it's starting to work on more of a less about going viral and followers and things like that, and more about matching content that somebody shares to the expertise that they have. So I think that is a big reason that's gonna kind of happen in the next year, is it's not about going viral anymore. It's about somebody being in the right industry saying the right things, which is perfect for a brand. They don't have to get 50,000 followers. They have to say the right thing and be the right person saying that thing, and the rest takes care of itself. And then the second is that we'd never worked with PR agencies before. And then a number of them have come to us in the past few months being like, hey, let's partly do this. And I'm like, what's going on here? And I'm not in the PR space. I'm not in the SEO space. And what's happening is that Google are now starting to, correct me if I'm wrong, I'm not SEO minded. Google are starting to index LinkedIn content, and LLMs are starting to register LinkedIn content from people as part of the rankings and things like this. So the power of the individual person within a brand talking about the brand can help when it comes to search on Google and LLMs and things like this. So I think the power has shifted from brands. It went brands and then leaders of brands, as in the CEO or the spokesperson, and now it's going wider into leadership teams and employees even further. So we're in that kind of era of it. And then you've got these things that are happening with things like SEO and what's happening with ChatGPT and things like that. So yeah, there's a number of different moving parts as to why I think this is becoming much more of a focus, and brands are starting to go, wait a minute, there's something in this that we should probably explore and start to invest in resource.
Yeah, totally. In fact, I interviewed Google last week, so I'm actually, I will show you guys. I'm actually in LA at the moment. I mean, what a cool place to host a talk on personal branding. You have to be, I don't know, Kardashians are built here. They're definitely good at personal branding. But last week, I was in Las Vegas interviewing Google, PayPal, Commerce and EPAM, who are all clients of ours at Street, actually more around agentic commerce. But it is something very, very important to raise, because the LLMs are now indexing much more conversational content. So I'm starting to see, very interestingly, off the back of my podcast and the longer form content and my posts on LinkedIn, and I think actually LinkedIn specifically is number 2 next to Reddit in terms of the platforms at the moment that the LLMs are citing. So, because people are searching more conversationally, and this was actually really interesting. The guy from Google was saying, like, my wife searches by voice, my son searches by picture, or it might be the other way around. But we're all searching differently. I search by voice. I chat to ChatGPT or Claude. I find the Claude chat interface quite confusing and a bit not great, but anyway, sorry anyone from Anthropic. But I think how people are searching is much more conversational. So you've got to think about that when you're writing your content, because it's searching for how people are searching, if that makes sense. And the LLMs are now finding content from people rather than content from brands, because they're going to Reddit, they're looking at reviews, they're looking at naturally written content. So if you're not writing content in a much more natural way, it's going to be much harder for you to get found. And I think, again, the power of that happening at scale across lots of your employees, which is why I say about power to the people, is going to give you more scale and more reference points for the LLM. So it's not just people finding human-centered content now, it's actually the LLM. Also, the robots are finding human-centered content. So it's really, really important to show up with your people in a much more conversational way, to my mind. So yeah, I'm here. I'm so here for that. Right. I want to talk about, we started to kind of edge into tactics and the kind of content, and we've talked a little bit about LinkedIn, and because we're on LinkedIn, I am going to prioritize LinkedIn today because we're all here. If someone's looking to get started, Ash, I mean, obviously they need to come and talk to you or come and talk to me and have a conversation about how they go to market. Tech companies for me, all the B2C ones to Ash. But if someone wants to kind of go, right, okay, I want to get started, I want to start writing a plan, talk to me about, let's talk about cadence first of all. Like, how often should people be showing up to actually cut through?
I'm kind of like torn on this in that so for example, there's a platform called Shield, and they do a newsletter every month, and it's a like LinkedIn data platform. And they did a piece saying they'd analyzed 50,000 posts from January to 50,000 posts from February, and people who posted 1 to 3 times a month got 3x reach than those who are posting 16 plus times a month. So if you look at like data, 50,000 posts Jan, Feb, it says the people that post less are having higher reach than those who are posting all the time. For me, it's about like, I'm less about what the tactics say and more about making it a really sustainable habit that you implement for years. Because like, as well as I do, that it takes years.
It does take
the impact to actually really, really, really show up. I've been doing this for a decade now, and I'd say in the past like 6 to 12 months, it's different than the previous 9 years, but there's 9 years of previous to that. And
point that I just want to, sorry to interrupt, but because I'm also very passionate about this, is because I think people come to us, especially in that, and look, that's why we do things like events. If you're looking to generate leads really quickly, events work fantastically. We're a lead gen content and events company, and if you want leads quickly, events, you're in the room with people having conversations, that's going to drive sales much more quickly than anything else. This stuff is probably even more powerful because it's going to help you at a much wider scale, but it takes time. You can't just show up and expect in 3 to 6 months. I mean, you will see, the needle will move, but this does take years. Like, I say I've been regular on LinkedIn for 2 years, but I've been running my business for 7 or 8 years, and I used to host monthly webinars and Zooms and, COVID days. I've always, whether it's been on LinkedIn or through other channels, we built my webinars. We used to have 2,000 people, I think, at one point join us every single month when I was like more of an agency for agencies. So it takes time, and you've got to be consistent. That was just me showing up probably on email once a week, and but on a Zoom once a month. But it was about me building that community over time. So I hate saying this because I know everyone wants a quick win, but there are no quick wins. This is about building trust, and building trust takes time. It's still like a relationship, isn't it? Like, if you go on a first date, you don't instantly fall in love. If you do, maybe go and see a psychologist. But most of the time, building that trust and evoking emotion and, getting to the point where you're actually ready to engage with someone, and it does kind of sit quite nicely next to the relationship situation. It takes time. So yeah, I just wanted to back that up, Ash, because I think that there are no quick wins, and I think you referenced a couple of times there how these brands, they're really seeing the results after 2 years. So don't start in another 2 years, guys. Start now, because if you do, you're going to be in this first throw of people that are really successful at this.
Yeah, I think it's like, what what is sustainable to you? If that's once a week, then it's once a week. If it's once every 2 weeks, then it's once every 2 weeks. And then also, Paul in the comments has just said, when content is carpet bombed, it quickly becomes wallpaper. And I think one is like, what's a sustainable habit for me to do? And then two is everything that I post has to be genuinely good. And I think a lot of people are maybe trying to tick a box, and they put something out because they're ticking a box. And especially now, like the amount of ChatGPT listed content, like the amount of people that I've heard say recently, just like, I'm sick of LinkedIn. And it's not the best place to be a consumer of content right now because of the amount of AI content. Now, to me, it's like that makes it an even bigger opportunity, because if you genuinely have something that is interesting or entertaining or a good story or something like that, it's going to stand out even more because people are used to seeing not great content on the platform. So I think it's an opportunity, but I would use the measure of like, okay, I'm going to post when I like, as often as I feel I can stick to over a number of years. And also when I post, I'm just going to make sure that I think it's really interesting. And I think in terms of cadence, it's less about like, you need to post X amount of times a week, or you need to make sure that you're commenting on people's posts and things like this. Like, forget what everybody else is doing and try to make something that works for you and that you find enjoyable to do. Like, if you find the content that you're producing interesting, that's kind of like part of the hack to it. Is also, I've seen a number of people that have been posting on LinkedIn for years over the past year just stop doing it because there's burnout. Like, it's hard to be consistent at something for a long time. And I think when people stop doing it, it's because they've lost interest in what they're even talking about. So I think you have to be really, really, really disciplined in like, I'm going to ignore the people that say post 90 times a day and just try to do what is right for me. And when I do post something, I'm going to try to make sure it's like the most interesting version of something that I could say this week. And actually, it was Steve Bartlett used to say to us, and I think he still says it now to his like teams when he's working on his personal brand. He's like, does the world need to hear this from me today? And it's such a great measure. Like, are you adding to the noise for the sake of adding to the noise? Or have you got something that people genuinely need to hear today in relation to what you speak about?
Yeah, it's got to be valuable. It has to go back to that, doesn't it? It's got to be valuable. And sometimes, we're talking about, marketing really here. Some people create content that's funny because they're a creator. Like that, we're talking about, generating business interest and marketing. So is it helpful? Is it interesting? Either from your product point of view, that's your product, is Bioma and it's going to help people have healthy skin, or it's, if it's me or Ash, it's actually helpful content around building your brand or whatever it might be. So I think that it has to go back to that. And we have this with our clients, like, don't feel under pressure. If you post once a week and it's really, really helpful, that's much better than posting 5 times a week a load of AI drivel, which I see all the time. And I see people I used to love their content who are clearly trying to scale, and now they're posting more, but it's so obviously written by AI, and I hate it. And I'm like, oh, you used to be so good, and now you're losing, because I think people feel the pressure to like post too much. So, less is more. The other thing, of course, and I'm sure, Stephen moved towards this at some stage. I don't know that I have the perfect answer for this, but I would love your opinion, Ash. Is I write and do all my content myself. I'm very, very precious about that still today. I write my posts myself. A lot of my content is like from the podcast or, video content. So it is actually genuinely me talking. I haven't been robotized yet. So for me, it's really important that I keep it real. Now, I have got friends who are creators in the marketing industry who I know now don't do that. They use their team. They might have recorded the video content, but their teams will write the content because they're maybe posting 2 or 3 times a day, and they've still got a business to run, right? So they've got other stuff to do. It is, and of course you help businesses do this. So how do you keep content authentic when you are doing it at scale and someone else is writing your content for you? Because it's a quandary.
Yeah, you can keep it real. You just need the person that's helping you keep it real care enough to keep it real. So like, I think a couple of people that I've worked with, and you would just have no idea that it's not them, because either me or the person working on it really cares about that, is like understanding. Like there's people that I've worked with that I go to sleep at night and I hear their voices in my head because I'm that in it. And I know, like, I care enough to understand what to them is genuine and how they would put it across and what people are expecting from them. And I think there's like a bit of a, in other areas, people aren't precious about like other people supporting the individual in things like content creation and social media and things like that. Like do we actually think that every single post that Justin Bieber does is Justin Bieber? Probably not.
No, we know it's, yeah.
It's expected, but within business and entrepreneurship, there's some kind of thing of like, oh, well, if it's not them, then there's like a thing. And I think it's less about, people care less about who presses post and more about that what they see is from a genuine place. And I think that someone in the comments has said, if you want to employ someone to help build your personal brand, who do you need? And what you actually need is somebody who's going to take the effort to like bridge the gap between it not being you but keeping it you. Like, it doesn't matter. It's a very, like, I don't know, you don't need to write it yourself, but it needs to come. I always say, like, the job that we were doing with Great Influence is like, we can't be you for you. But if you give us the seeds, we can run with it and make something of it. And it is not our job to put words in people's mouths. It's our job to get words out of people's mouths. And then there's a system there and people there and process there to help make that turn into the machine. And it goes wrong when people aren't willing to give whoever they're working with that. Where they're just like, okay, I'm going to engage this agency, I'll pay them, and they'll just kind of like take care of it. Where it's like, no, you need to be working the way that you need to see it. And the thing that I always love working with Steve, and I've had it with several people that I've worked with in the past couple of years, is like, it's like we're co-founders of their personal brand. And we're one big team that are all working on it equally as much as everybody else. And time, I don't mean in time, because naturally, like, people are busy, they're paying for a reason to make it efficient, but when they're needed, they give everything that is required of them. And I think that's the difference, is like, you can't expect someone to have the idea on your behalf, and you need to be the person that's the source of the material, and then people can go from there. And there's absolutely no problem with that. There's no difference. I don't think it makes an impact. I actually think it's better because somebody else can look at it and go, this is what's actually interesting out of what you've said. Whereas I could do this for an hour. I'm rambling. I have no idea. Whereas somebody else sitting there listening will go, that's the really interesting thing out of what you've just said. Yeah. So actually there's a benefit to working with somebody else from it as well. So yeah, I think it's a massive, like, I always say you want to get going on your own so that you understand it and you create it. And then somebody comes into that and helps make it a bit more scalable and a bit more consistent over time.
I love that. And you're so right. The way that we do it with, we're doing it with businesses at scale across their teams, but also with founders, is, often video content, because you're having a conversation and we'll sort of, fake podcast interview them. So they feel really comfortable, but they're talking genuinely about the things that they're talking about. And that's where we get the sound bites. And that's how we help work with them, to draft the content in the right way, in their tone of voice, because we've actually had a conversation with them. And of course, that can be done in other ways. It doesn't have to be video content, but it's one of the reasons that personally I love video content, because it is real. It's the person's voice. They're having a conversation. You can see them speaking. So it does, for me, that's a great way. You've got to spend time. You've got to have conversations, interviews with the people that you're working with so that they understand your tonality, how you talk, what's important to you, the words that you use. I'm always like, there's some kind of, especially with AI, you can see what, there's so many things that it says. Like, I think I'm going to do a post about this soon. Like, there's honestly, or I don't know, and the kicker is, or whatever. There's so many obvious things that it says. I can read posts. I'm like, yeah, I know AI has written that, even if they've done their best not to do it. And also, for some reason, us as humans, when we write content, we just turn into corporate robots. I don't know why. Like, so my one rule is, whenever you're writing something, does that sound like something that you would write to your best friend in a WhatsApp message or a text message? If it doesn't, chuck it away and start again, because people need to still sound like people. Yet you don't need to suddenly, I'm writing a post about business, so I need to suddenly turn into this corporate robot. No, you need to talk like a human in a way that you usually talk. Like, if it doesn't sound like you, don't post it. I'm a really big advocate of that. So yeah, I think there's, video content is interesting. Now, on that, I did see, I don't know if any of you guys follow Andy Lambert. If you don't, we're going to talk about some cool people to follow. Obviously, definitely go and follow Ash. And if you don't follow me, please follow me too. But Andy Lambert posted this week, because LinkedIn does have this battle with video content. It's been trying to do it. It did the video feed. That didn't quite work. I'm a big fan of LinkedIn, by the way. But content on LinkedIn that performs better is apparently, now this is my up-to-date insight from Andy's little LinkedIn, social media updates that you need to know every week, was that we know carousels, or the PDF images that whatever they call them, documents on LinkedIn, perform really well. Actually, multiple image posts are performing even better. I often find my content is just the static posts that perform best. Video still isn't quite performing as it should do on LinkedIn. So in terms of type of content, Ash, I mean, those are the official stats from Andy. I post a lot of video, and I'm sticking with it because I like it, and I feel that I'm kind of good at it. It's something that I like doing. But do you use any particular different types of content in your strategies for clients, and do you see any performance differentiators?
Kind of what you said there. Like, I like video, so I do video.
Yeah.
I'm a believer that the platforms go like this in terms of what they reward and what they don't reward, and what format works and what format doesn't. And I think at the minute, people have a problem. I think the problem is not LinkedIn. I think it's the people on LinkedIn that's the problem, by the way. And engagement is down, reach is down, follow growth is down, all these things are down. And for me, when a platform is going through some kind of like change from where it was at before, none of us know what's actually happening behind the scenes. And I think it's more important to do what is comfortable to you and what you think is the right thing for you to do, given the things that you're trying to achieve from doing it. And all the kind of like optimization of the platform through the formats and how you distribute the content and all this kind of thing, to me, is like, they're things that only the biggest people in the game should be thinking about. So like, take Steven Bartlett, for example. He and his team should be thinking about, how do we increase engagement 0.4%? Because he has 2.5 million followers, and 0.4% is a lot of people. Whereas if you've got 5,000 connections, it doesn't really matter whether you upload a photo or a video. Like, the needle is not moving that far. And it's much more important to focus on like, what is the right, again, it's like, forget the way that I think about this whole thing is like, don't think about social media until after you figured out what you want to do. And figuring out what you want to do is actually also, what are you comfortable with doing, and what do you think is your competitive advantage? So if I was like, I've tried video stuff, it doesn't feel right to me, I'd go, right, okay, what does feel right? Okay, when I write, it feels a lot better to me. That to me is part of your strategy, because it's like, the game here is to show up for a long time. And if you're forcing yourself to do something that you're not comfortable with or don't enjoy, then it's going to become difficult to do that. So I always think it's like figure it out in your own little world, your own little box. Don't listen to anything else. And then once you come out with a plan, you then take it to the platform and you go, right, okay, what do I understand about the platform right now? And how can I bring those two worlds together? And it's all about trade-offs. So like, I think, as you think, video is by far the most impactful format for selling, and building relationships and selling, because when people see you, hear you, it's way more impactful than something that doesn't have that level of, I don't know, 3D-ness to it.
Yeah.
But people would ignore doing video right now because LinkedIn apparently doesn't reward it. So yeah, I think you have to decide what is, for me, I think I'm better when I speak to people, when they hear me, when they see me. I think that's my domain. So it makes sense for me to try do more video than not. Whereas somebody else, I've been doing this kind of thing for like 4 or 5 years now. I'm more comfortable with it. There was a point when I wasn't comfortable with it and I didn't want to do video. But I still had some good, like what I thought were good ideas, and I could write them. So again, it's like what's comfortable to you and what's sustainable to you, and then try to figure out what the platform is doing and bring those two worlds together and decide what the trade-offs are.
Yeah, because like you say, the algorithms are always changing. Like I do try and stay up to date with the algorithms. Of course, it's my job to do that, as it is yours, Ash. But the reality is I do what is easy for me to do. Like what's the simplest, the thing that makes me feel the most comfortable, that I enjoy doing, that I'm good at, because then I'm going to show up at my best. I'm much more likely to do it because I like doing it, basically. It's kind of that simple, guys. Now, I am going to try and come to some of the questions, and then at the end, Ash, we're going to do, you don't know this yet because I've just decided it now. We're going to do some like quick fire, maybe little tactics and things that you guys, could go and do and take to market that might help you with your LinkedIn and content strategies. So I'm going to call you all out. So thank you for everyone commenting. If you want to ask questions, now is the time, guys, because we've only got 10 minutes left. Sabina Bellamy, question for Ash and Katie. From your experience, what are practical steps of launching a personal brand, and what channels are best to use, and how to stand out, especially in an era of many using AI content? Well, first of all, the channel where the people that you're trying to access live, like that for me, B2B, LinkedIn makes the most sense because they're there. But there are other channels up and coming, like Substack, like Instagram. Like my podcast performs really, really well on Instagram at the moment. I'm getting like suddenly, we've been doing it for 2 years, and suddenly it's breaking through. So I would say understand where your customers live, and go there, and I would also say focus on 1 or 2 channels. Probably I don't know, Ash, you're going to probably give some totally different advice to me, but I personally really dialed in on LinkedIn to start with. After a couple of years, then start to build out from that. Ash, I'm sure you've got even better insights than I have.
My advice is the same. Like, again, like if you try to go after multiple platforms, I keep coming back to this of like, what is sustainable for you to do? And if you're trying to do like 3 platforms at once, it's a lot less sustainable than just picking one. So yeah, and in terms of like launching a personal brand, don't think of it as launching a personal brand. Just think of it as like, I'm just going to start turning up. Like, I think the minute that you put a bit of pressure on it, there's something about, there's a whole thing that we've not spoke about here about like the whole emotional complexity of doing all of this that really, really, really exists. And the amount of people that I spoke to that go, oh, I just don't, once I've got a strategy, once I've got a plan, and then it's actually not that they need a strategy or plan, it's just that they don't have the confidence to do what they're trying to do. And to me, it's like the idea of like launching a personal brand. I was speaking earlier today and said like one of the things that I find useful is to reframe the idea of building a personal brand to like, I'm just building my own personal marketing channel. And like, how can you reframe it from this big thing that you need to do that needs to have all these followers and all these likes and all these great ideas that you've got to make? And actually, like you said it there before, you said, this is all really simple. everything we said here is almost like ridiculously simple. But that's kind of what it needs to be, because anything else is a bit too overawing. And it's like, don't think of it as this huge thing you need to do. And I say that because you can always, like, what you do now doesn't matter in 5 years. And I've seen this from, like, nobody remembers what Steve posted on Instagram in 20th of April 2016.
Oh yeah.
Nobody recalls it. And if it wasn't the, like, greatest thing in the world, it didn't matter. It's like, it's helping you get to where you need to go. And I think, like I was saying before about, like, AI content, if you need to get started, you're like, I actually don't really know what to say, and I'm just going to get the LLM to help me. If you need to do that for the first 3 months, do it. Like, whatever, because you can then start to develop the confidence to develop your own ideas, and, like, whatever helps you get started and get going is the right thing to do. And then over time, what you did in the past doesn't matter. It's about what you're doing now, and you'll build, you'll grow, you'll learn, like, you'll go on a journey of doing it. I've seen it with so many people that I work with, where it's like they massively overthought the moment that they're in now, of like, oh, this matters so much, it has to be perfect, it has to be this, it has to be that. It's much more important to just strip away everything and keep it simple, and just try to show up and create something that's consistent.
Yeah. And I think also think about your content pillars. Like we've talked about, you know, having one thing, but you might have 2 or 3 different things. Like, you know, my content pillars are a little bit diverse. I probably have more than 3, but I would probably say if you could start with 2 or 3, you know, for me, that's, you know, I talk about how to, you know, design events that, you know, encourage that people actually want to go to in the world of B2B, and, you know, helps connect people with their prospects. I talk about you know, personal branding and how to create human-centered content that connects a lot better than, you know, the typical kind of branded marketing content that we're all used to seeing in the corporate world for the last few years. And I also talk about things like female leadership and things that are close to my heart, and being a mum, and, you know, so I show up as a person as well. So I think pick, you know, 2 or 3 things that you can that are helpful, insightful, but also show you as a person. Like, don't try. One of the things, hopefully, that helps me with my content is and I get lots of people message me about this, is like I genuinely am me. Like, I don't try to be anyone else. I don't copy anyone else's content. I don't try and write like anyone else. I genuinely try to just be me. And I think that also helps a lot. And, you know, it's like when people talk on stage, like, I'm quite a confident speaker, but some people aren't confident on stage, and they'll go up, and you're much better to go up and go, you know, I hate doing this and I feel really awkward, but I'm doing it anyway. Like, people want that humanity and realness, because they probably feel the same. So if you know, your first LinkedIn post was like, oh my God, I'm going to start doing this. It feels really cringe, but I'm going to do it anyway because I know it's important. Here's why I'm doing it, and this is what I'm going to do. Like, be real. Like, you don't need to pretend to be anything but yourself in this world. So yeah, I would say that that's also really important. I hope that was helpful. We've talked about channels. We talked earlier about a few of the things that you need to do. So hopefully we've covered a fair bit of that. We had some nice questions from Daryl. Hi, Daryl. Daryl's a good friend of mine. He was asking, about who you need to build a personal brand. Is it a fractional CMO, someone in-house, full or part-time, outsourced to an agency? Ash, I'm going to pass that straight to you.
I'll answer it as quick as I can. I think you need personal branding and social media are different, and the two often get like put into one person. And a lot of people that are servicing personal brand right now are actually really good at social media, and they've not quite got the experience of personal brand, or they've done it for one person, or it's themselves and they're then giving that advice out to other people. So I would try to, if I was going to get someone to help me with it, I tried to get someone to help more on the personal brand strategy, which has nothing to do with social media, and understand that piece. And then I'd engage someone from a social point of view of helping create content and manage it and scale and all that kind of thing. So yeah, a bit of a two-pronged approach. Or you could just do it yourself.
Yeah, just do it yourself. I think starting doing it yourself is really important. And when you want to scale, you will need, I do write and create most of my content myself, but I have my amazing team who edit all the videos. Like, I don't do that. I'm not, because I'd probably be really rubbish at. I mean, sometimes I do edit videos in CapCut, but when I'm in a rush, because I don't tend to overly plan my content. I post about what I'm thinking about on that day at the time I'm thinking about it, and that's how I run mine. But everyone's different. But yeah, I would say work with someone who can be really close to you, who really gets you. And if you've got parts of it that you don't like doing more than others, get them to do the bits that you are maybe not so good at or don't enjoy doing as much. That's maybe a way to do it. Yeah. Really big and good question from LinkedIn user. It's not telling me who they are, but thank you, LinkedIn user. Because this is a big shift that we, I guess, started talking about. Ash, I feel like we could have gone on for hours on here. This could be like a whole Joe Rogan thing. Like, there's so many more things that I've thought about on this hour's journey that I want to ask you. But anyway, maybe we'll do another one. Do you have any tips around building employee advocacy? I feel like exec leaders are often more deeply aligned with the business goals, but employees might have more personal outcomes they'd want to pursue, or are just reluctant altogether. Are there ways to bridge these gaps?
Yeah, I think you have to not try to protect your own interests. And the more that you can like work together, the better it is. So it's like you're both getting something out of it. And so many people are afraid of like, oh, if we build them up, they'll get headhunted and go somewhere else. And it's like, that's been happening in sales for decades. Like, you hire a person, they come with a little black book, they got that little black book from somewhere else, they go somewhere else. Like, this, it's not a unfamiliar thing, but now with a personal brand thing, it feels a bit different. And I think it's just being like try to look at it from their point of view and go, how can we educate them as much as possible and make them see how important this is for their own careers? And they'll be more willing to help us out in return. So like there's stories of people that have literally gone from like working in a company as an employee to building a personal brand, going out on their own. And we had Ellie Middleton was part of our team. She's a neurodivergent activist and author, and she was part of Great Influence. And then before that, she started building a personal brand while she was at Great Influence. She was building a personal brand. Then she leaves, she starts her own career. She's now like a multiple best-selling Sunday Times author. She's speaking to all these huge brands. Her career is unbelievable now. And she was an employee in a company before that, but because of personal brand, she was able to do this great thing. And I think companies could be more like educational about what the employee could get out of it and not try to protect their own interests, which is like, make sure we don't say anything that will make them leave or think that there's a bigger career than the one that exists here. And I think if you're just honest with them and try to work with them, they'll give back tenfold. Like Ellie still now is a massive advocate of Great Influence because we did everything that we could to help her and she did everything that she could to help us. So yeah.
You're part of that journey. I think that that in itself is a marketing ploy, right? If someone that's worked for me goes off to, be a fantastic influencer in their own right, and I'm part of it, and they're like, I started all of this at Street Agency. Great. Like, you're giving me a big badge of honor. Like, and there'll be lots of people at HubSpot that do that. The reality is people aren't going to work for your business forever. Don't try and force them into doing that. The other thing, and this is just a pet peeve, and we are at time, but I might go 2 minutes over. Sorry, guys. Is when the content teams try to control everything. So we work with a lot of big tech companies, and it's so frustrating. Some of my best and favorite clients, and not just from the employee advocacy, but the content goes through the content team and it just gets destroyed and turned into this corporate mush. So please, content teams, try to let your people have a voice and let them be them, because you're gonna get much better traction from trying to do that than everyone trying to sound the same and trying to sound like the brand. That is not the answer here. Guys, thank you so much for joining. Ash, there's a million more things. I said we were going to do some like quick fire stuff to give people. Maybe we'll do like 1 or 2 things each. I was going to say, this is a really simple one, guys. I'm going to give 2 things about writing your content on LinkedIn specifically. And this kind of goes the same for other platforms, but they all have their own nuances. give your content space, make it easy for people to read. Think about your first line hook. So, how are you going to stop that scroll? If it's a video, the first 3 seconds, really, really important that you capture them. Like I did a video the other day and I was holding a matcha. There was a reason I was holding the matcha to promote this, because it was green, it's bright, it captures people's attention. So think about how you're going to capture people's attention in the scroll with the image and or the video in that the first thing that they see, and what you've got written in your first line, and give your content some space. The other thing that the LinkedIn algorithm particularly likes is long form. So actually max out the character count if you can and you want to, and you've got the value to add. Don't just do it for the sake of it. But I think a lot of people think, oh, I don't want to write long posts. No, that increases dwell time, and the algorithm actually likes that. So there's a couple of practical tips from me to end. Ash, can we have a couple of practical tips from you?
Don't think of it as trying to be famous. Just think of it as trying to involve yourself in a community.
Love that. So simple, so good. I love that. Yeah, it is. It's about community. This is about community, guys. That's why I'm hosting these. So thank you all for joining. We will now be going live, I promise, on the first Wednesday of every month. I'm getting more regular. I messed up at the beginning of the year, but that was because my poor daddy died. So there was an excuse for my irregularity, but I am going to be regular. I'm practicing what we're preaching here today. Next month, we are particularly going to be diving into LinkedIn with, I think, hopefully, definitely someone who's ex-LinkedIn, who is now going off on LinkedIn themselves and building their own personal brand, and also someone from LinkedIn themselves. So if you enjoyed today, please give us a follow. Go and follow the Street page. I'll make sure everyone today gets an invite to next month. And a huge thank you to Ash. Ash, we need to have a conversation offline to see how we can collaborate more. Yeah. Thanks everyone for joining. Big thank you to Ash, and I hope you all enjoyed it. Thank you for all the comments and for being here, and I will see you all again next month. Bye guys. Bye. Woo. Mic drop, mic drop.